February 14th, the International Day of Love and Romance. And since we recently got our first female main character in a main Gundam series, I figured that today would be the perfect time to have a look at all of the other lady Gundam pilots throughout history. Or at least, mostly the ones from the anime. And we're starting with the original Gundam waifu, Sayla Mass from the original Gundam. Usually the strong, dependable type, she first was a communications officer of the White Base, and eventually became the pilot of the G-Fighter or the Core Booster, depending on whether you go with the anime or the compilation movies. But before she got her fighter craft, she first tried her hands at piloting the RX-78-2 Gundam. Against orders. This list is not off to a great start. But around the same time, we had another female Gundam pilot with a lot more success. Karen Joshua, a feisty redhead who doesn't mess around, neither in nor out of battle. Unfortunately, this did not save her Gundam ground type from getting its head caved in, which then led to it getting replaced by a Gym Head and earning her unit the appropriate nickname, Gym Head. A nickname that she understandably wasn't very fond of. Up in space then, we had the fan favorite Christina Mackenzie, who piloted the Gundam NT-1, also known as simply the Alex. Now, sometimes Cruz does get a bit of a bad rap because she wasn't able to handle this beast of a Gundam very well. But in her defense, she was a rookie test pilot who suddenly had to pilot a Gundam meant for new types in real combat. Real combat against an elite Zeon squadron, so don't underestimate someone who can turn a Kempfer into Swiss cheese. And the final female Gundam pilot of the 1-year war is a bit of a technicality. In order to replicate new type capabilities for regular pilots, Dr. Clust Moses developed the exam system. The catch though was that this system was essentially the captured soul of the new type Marion Whelch, and whenever the system activated, it was her new type soul that was acting as some kind of performance enhancer. So you could argue that she was also piloting the mobile suits with the exam system installed in them. And those machines were also part of the technicality, by the way, because the two most Gundam-like machines that had the exam system weren't actually called Gundams, despite being based on Gundams and having all of the physical Gundam attributes. So feel free to discuss this technicality in the comments, because it'll give this video a boost in the algorithm. And things only got worse in Zeta Gundam, where we have 4 Murasame, who piloted the massive Psycho Gundam. The fact that she was a cyber new type should already tell you enough, but things were made even worse by the fact that her memories were being held hostage to force her to do whatever the researchers wanted. Things like controlling the Psycho Gundam that would be impossible for a regular human due to the immense psychological burden. And things would not end well for her, nor would they for her successor, Rosamia Badam, who piloted the Psycho Gundam Mark II. And this girl had her mind manipulated even more, which would result in mental instability that would haunt her for the rest of her way too short life. But fortunately, it wasn't all doom and gloom in Zeta either. We did have Fa Yuri. Now you might mostly remember her from piloting the Methus, but she did pilot the Zeta the one time in Double Zeta Gundam. So she does qualify as a Gundam pilot. And the same goes for Reccoa Londo. She also flew the Zeta Gundam once, and is therefore a Gundam pilot. Just not a very beloved one. Unlike the main female Gundam pilot from Zeta, Sheen. Originally a member of the Titans and test pilot of the Gundam Mark II, she defected to the AUG, where she then became the designated pilot of the Mark II. And thanks to her skills, she managed to get the most out of the increasingly outperformed and outgunned Gundam Mark II. So she's absolutely a sight to behold in multiple ways, also making her one of the best Gundam piloting waifus around. But she is of course no match for the best Zeta Gundam girl, Camille Badam.
Camille is a perfectly good name for a guy. I'm a man and I'll prove it!
This guy's nuts!
And we're continuing our fun in Double Zeta Gundam, because, as Double Zeta tends to be, things are a bit more lighthearted there. At least at first. We were first introduced to Elle Viano as part of the kids living at Shangri-La, making their lives as junk dealers. But due to a chance encounter, she and her friends would become crew members on board of the Argama, where she would then eventually become the main pilot of the Gundam Mark II. Although on some occasions, she would also pilot the Zeta Gundam. But that machine would be mainly used by another Double Zeta Gundam lady, Roux Louka. Now, unlike Elle, she joined the Argama's crew as an actual pilot, and although she would be mainly known for piloting the Zeta, she also used the Gundam Mark II and even the powerful Double Zeta Gundam. But then we get to Kayra soon, who at some point got her hands on the Gundam Mark II, Elpeo, who also took control of the Gundam Mark II and the Double Zeta Gundam once or twice, and Puru 2, who was the designated pilot of the restored Psycho Gundam Mark II. And let's just say that none of them fared any better than the original pilots of either the Gundam Mark II or the Psycho Gundam Mark II. When Double Zeta Gundam decided to get dark, Double Zeta Gundam got really dark. So, moving on to the next technicality on this list. Do we consider the Rigazia Gundam? Because technically, it does have Gundam in its name. Refined Gundam Zeta. And it also has the typical Gundam attributes, 2 eyes and a V-fin. So, even though I feel like people typically don't consider this machine a true Gundam, there is an argument to be made, so again, feel free to discuss in the comments. And if we do consider this thing a Gundam, then that means that both Kayra and Chan Agi were also Gundam pilots. Something that didn't end well for them, a trend that also continues in Unicorn Gundam. The Unicorn Gundam Unit 2, also known as the Banshee, was originally piloted by Marida Cruz, one of the few surviving Puru clones from the first Neo-Zeon War who were used as pilots for the Kublai mass production types. But don't think for a second that this was the beginning of a happy life for her. Because if I even were to hint at the things that happened to her before she was saved by Neo-Zeon remnants, this video would be demonetized immediately. And even after being saved, her life did get less bad, but she would still be on the front lines, leading to her eventual acquisition by the Vist Foundation, and her forcibly becoming the pilot of the Banshee. And while she wouldn't be killed inside of the Gundam, it would still be what eventually killed her. And in Gundam NT, we get another new type soul trapped in a Gundam. Rita Bernal was the test pilot of Unicorn Gundam Unit 3, the Phoenix. But during one of the tests, the Phoenix went out of control, causing her to irreversibly be absorbed by the Gundam. And next up, we have Victory Gundam, where, spoiler alert, everyone dies. So becoming a Gundam pilot in this series was almost more of a matter of staying alive until they could produce enough of the limited production Victory Gundam Hexas than anything else. Meaning that out of the entire Shrike team, only Cony Francis, Juca Meilasch, Miliera Katan, and Francesca O'Hara would become Gundam pilots, each piloting either the Victory Gundam Hexa or its upgraded form, the V-Gundam Hexa. And none of them would survive the final battle. The only one who did manage to make it out alive was Marbot Fingerhat. Throughout the series, she used both the Hexa and the standard Victory Gundams, as well as the optional dash parts. In Reconquista and G then, we also get quite some female Gundam pilots, but their survival rates are significantly higher than their predecessors from Victory, although their names are significantly weirder. Raraiya Akuparl, Ida Surigan, Mani Ambasada, and Nordo Nug. And while this is where the mainline Universal and Regal Sentries end, we do get one more female Gundam pilot from Gundam Thunderbolt, one of the alternate universe Universal Sentries, Bianca Carlisle and the Atlas Gundam. And again, depending on how technical you want to get, there was also Alicia who piloted a Gundam head, which really was just the Gym Thunderbolt version, but with a Gundam-styled head. But still, just like Valentine's Day, it's the thought that really counts. And things only get better when we move on to the alternate universes, starting off with G Gundam, where we find Rain Mikamura and Allenby Beardsley. The former is a pilot of the Rising Gundam, and she managed to live happily ever after. And the latter is piloting the absolutely not Sailor Moon inspired Noble Gundam. It's more of a Sailor Venus Gundam really, but it wouldn't be Gundam without something happening. The Gundam had the Berserker system installed into it, which would forcibly increase the pilot's combat performance by 20%, but would also cause the pilot to lose control. Moving on to Gundam Wing then, where we get one of the most Gundam Wing things ever. Lady Une was lying in a coma in a hospital on Earth, but then suddenly, she felt that her beloved Mr. Trace was being targeted by a giant laser cannon. So she managed to get up, steal a Gundam, equipped it with boosters to shoot it into space, got there in time to push Mr. Trace out of the way of the laser cannon, and managed to tank part of the shot while she was at it. And all of this apparently happened in 5 minutes. 5 Namekian minutes. Also, Lady Une was fine. Gundam X then has one of the most obscure female Gundam pilots. At one point, Royby says that his Leopard Gundam used to belong to a friend of his, and that she was the one who gave him the Gundam. But that is unfortunately all that we know about her. And since she was the only one in Gundam X, we're already moving on to Turn A Gundam, where we find Laura Rolla, who piloted the very unique looking titular Gundam, the Turn A. She's also never seen in the same room as the main character, Loran Shahak. But let's not think too much about that and have a look at the Cosmic Era ladies. First and foremost, we have Kigali Eula Otha, who was already kicking ass before she ever set foot aboard her Gundam, the Strike Rouge. Originally meant to be outfitted with the IWSP Striker pack, she'd settle for the Ale Striker at first, and would then upgrade to the Otori Striker pack. And then later yet, she would upgrade to the very striking Golden Akatsuki Gundam. Unfortunately, the writer of Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny apparently didn't like her voice actor very much, so she didn't kick nearly as much ass in Gundam Seed Destiny as she did in Gundam Seed. And she wasn't the only one who underdelivered. Luna Maria Hawk, she got the Impulse Gundam after Shin moved on to the Destiny Gundam, and booked, well, mixed results. Lacus Klein then also wasn't great technically speaking, but she was just acting as the Infinite Justice's delivery man, so good on her for being able to pilot the thing on such short notice. And then there was Stella, who continued the Universal Century trend of bad things happening to Gundam pilots, especially the augmented ones. Initially shown as a frail, innocent girl, her augmentation and mental conditioning would turn her into a cold-blooded killer when it was time for battle. She started off with the stolen Gaia Gundam and would eventually become the pilot of the massive Destroy Gundam. And the only silver lining to her end was that her death was one of the most beautifully animated ones in Gundam. For Stargazer then, I just have a poem. Blood is red, Baku's are blue, Moody's dead, and became a dog chew. And I almost forgot about Celine McGriff, who piloted the titular Stargazer Gundam. Next up then, we have Nana Trinity, a psychotic beauty who piloted the Gundam Throne Dry. But according to a certain someone, she wasn't piloting a Gundam, because he defined Gundam as anything that was used to fight against wars and conflict. And since Nana and her Gundam were definitely causing conflicts in a variety of ways, neither she nor her Gundam were real Gundams. At least according to Setsuna F. Seiei. So yeah, the true Gundam piloting waifu of Gundam 00 was clearly Tierra. Because sometimes it takes a real man to become best girl. And now we've gotten to the character that inspired this video, Suletta Mercury, pilot of the Gundam Ariel and Tanuki lookalike. But since Witch from Mercury is still ongoing, this is where I'll end the video. Now there are still a lot of female Gundam pilots out there in the Builders universe, but I think I'll give them a dedicated video next year. So for now, let me know down below who is your favorite Gundam piloting waifu, or if I forgot someone. I really hope I didn't forget someone obvious. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.